Right. So the next function of religion is that, it provides this sort of a thing called the collective effervescence. Right. So what is this collective effervescence? So collective effervescence is nothing but whenever you feel like you're in a trouble, or whenever you feel like, you want to have someone to talk to or to help you, religion basically provides you with a community of people with whom you can bond, with whom you can develop certain relations, and religion in that way brings out this collective effervescence. So collective effervescence nothing is nothing but the feeling of being one, okay, the feeling of oneness or being one. And that is what is collective effervescence, right? So this collective effervescence does nothing but it increases the solidarity in the people, and it makes people to be bound as a single group, right? So it makes people to be bound as a single group, right? So that is the basic function of this collective effervescence. This is a very important topic here, right? So now, after telling the functions of religion, Emile Durkheim also makes a very interesting part here, wherein he says that in today's society, okay, in today's society, what happened to this religion? Okay, is it still there, or because today there is no subtle difference between what is sacred and what is profane, right? So these both are not so much differentiated today as it was before in the pre-industrial society. So when Durkheim came across this question of what is the difference between sacred and profane in today's world, and whether religion is showing its profound impact in today's world, for that he said that religion is very well present in today's world as well. Okay, so today's world has a lot of ideologies, right? It has so many people, there is A, there is B, C, D, like that. There are many people who have different opinions, different ideologies, and for controlling all this ideology and bringing everyone as a union, we need an omnipotent ideology, right? Omnipotent ideology. And for Durkheim, this omnipotent ideology is nothing but secularism, right? So today, whatever you can see, the religion is nothing but a religion of secularism that is dominating the sphere of religion today, right? So today, like if you see today's application of Durkheim's theory, UPSC has asked a couple of questions based on this theme, wherein they basically say, hey, what is the application of Durkheim in today's world? You can say that today there is a lot of difference between the sacred and profane, right? A lot of change has happened. Profane have increased a lot. There is an increase in number of the profane, and there is this thing called the cult of individual, right? So individual becoming more and more important than the society, wherein especially after the French Revolution, the values like equality, fraternity, and liberty, right? So these three values have been championing the cause of the individual, and the individual's cult has been on the rise, right? So the cult of the individual has been on the rise, especially after the French Revolution, that is in the post sorry, after the industrialization, right? So post industrial societies, the cult of the individual is on the rise. And then you can also say that secularism has become the new religion, right? So secularism has become this omnipotent ideology, which has become the very powerful omnipotent ideology that is ruling today's world, right? So apart from this, all the functions like this being a source of morality, right? We do a lot for the nation. What is right for the nation is right for the individual as well, and it providing a collective effervescence. Whenever we watch India versus Pakistan match, right? What do we feel? We feel that we are all Indians. Okay, this binds us all together. We feel a sort of that electrifying thing in our bodies whenever India wins the match against Pakistan, or for that matter any other country. And that is a collective effervescence that secularism provides for, right? So in that way there are many other things, right? So and all of these basically integrate the individuals into that common pool which is called as the collective pool. And this basically, the secularism today is what Durkheim tells that is preventing the situation called anomy, right? So anomy is nothing but the situation of statelessness. Okay, so since we came across this word, let us do what is anomy also, because the questions on anomy is also very very rampant in the UPSC papers, right? So what is this anomy, or what is this statelessness, as Durkheim calls it, right? So Durkheim basically says that in every society, especially when the society is moving from pre-modern society to post-modern society. So how did this movement happen? If you have seen the previous classes, you know very well that the movement happened because of the fundamental sorry, it's not fundamental, right? It's French Revolution and Industrial Revolution, right? So yeah, we use FR as fundamental, right? So just a slip of tongue there. So because of French Revolution and Industrial Revolution, and because of many other trajectory that we have drawn, right, from the ancient Greek to the Dark Ages to the Renaissance, Enlightenment, and then came in the French Revolution and the Industrial Revolution, and whatever was before that was called the pre-modern society, and whatever was called the after, or the aftermath, is called the postmodern society. So the society, when passing from this part to this part, had an intermediate part which is called the anomy, right? And for this, Durkheim tells that anomy is nothing but statelessness, right? So statelessness meaning that during this period there was this. This is an intermediate stage. That's the first thing. This is an intermediate stage, and this was a stage where there are no clear guidelines, no clear rules, no clear regulations, or no clear guidelines, right? So this was a stage in that way, and there was absence of any norms. There was absence of any norm, and there were a lot of conflicting opinions, right? And today, if you see India also, maybe we, according to Durkheim, India is in an anomy phase, or maybe most part of the world is in anomy phase. Not complete world is industrialized as of right now. Like for example, if we see our views on abortion, in many countries abortion has been legalized, but in India there are many moral stances against abortion, right? So this is what, nothing but conflicting opinions. Consider LGBTQ rights. You have a lot of conflicting opinion. Though the Supreme Court comes in and always tries to support the um, LGBTQ people, there is always a conflicting opinion. There are conflicting opinions from different learned men themselves. So that is what is anomy, where there is conflicting opinion, where there is absence of any norms. Absence of any norms, and you can also consider pandemic, for that matter, the COVID-19 pandemic, as something which is absence of any norms. Why? Because we've never seen something like that during our lifetime. So for all the new people over here, this pandemic was something which was very new. We did not know how to deal with it. For the first time, we have been through lockdown, through months of lockdown. We have been through work from home, right? All these are something, that came in all of a sudden. We were not prepared for it. So that is also an anomaly according to Emile Durkheim, right? However, Durkheim says that, you know, uh, Durkheim basically says that anomy is such a phase where the old norms or the old scale has been upset, but new scale has not been yet formed. Very important. So the old scale has been upset, but the new scale has not been formed yet. For example, let us take the pandemic. The old scale has been upset. If you see the children's education, the old scale, that is children going to the school at 8 o'clock in the morning, sitting in the classroom, has been upset. Okay, that thing is gone now. But the new scale, that is that of online education, has not been so much internalized by the students themselves. You know, students do not have this capability of sitting for 8 hours in front of the laptops or the computers. Many people don't have internet at their homes to provide for this uh, online education, and not just internet, but even that sort of arrangement in the home. There is no convenience at a home, right? That's why people are sent to the schools, right? Because in home studying is difficult. So all this is something that has not been set right now. If you see, like, online education even still is not like in the highest form. It is still progressing. It is a progressive scale, right? It is not like conformly being there in the place, right? So that is what this statement says, that the old scale has been gone. That is, you can no longer go through the regular process during the pandemic. I'm talking about the during the pandemic, not after the pandemic. Right now, so again, the old scale has been restored, but during the pandemic, it was very difficult for us to follow this old pattern. So we had to shift immediately to this new pattern, and people were having a lot of disturbances because of this new pattern. Many people were not able to also, about work from home. Many people were not able to adapt to the work from home. Many people were not able to focus on work at their home, and this led to basically problems between the professional and the personal life of many people, right? There were clashes between these both, and this is what happens when there is anomy. There is no proper agenda set, there is no proper scale that has been formed, and there are a lot of differences between the uh, old system and the new system, that it takes a lot of time for people to adjust, right? So that is what is anomy. But Durkheim says that this anomy is not permanent, it is transitionary, and that it can be gone because of certain interventions. If the government makes certain interventions, or if the people themselves make certain interventions, the anomy can be easily done away with. He doesn't consider anomy to be something which is of a very great, disruptor in the lives of the people. He just considered it to be a transitionary state, and that it can be done away with certain interventions from the government, or from the people, or from the society as a whole, right? So this is what Durkheim's theory of anomy is, right? And that also, basically, we came to that anomy because we were talking about the function of secularism as a religion. Now let us discuss the criticisms. Okay, the criticisms of the religion theory of Durkheim. Criticisms of Durkheim's religion. Very interesting again. So the firstly, obviously, what will the first criticisms be? It will be a Marxist criticism. The Marxists will obviously come and tell that, you have only told the positive functions of religion, but religion has been a very major uh, disrupting factor, right? Disrupting factor. For example, Hindus versus Muslims, right? So this thing has been there from many decades now, especially after the partition of India, right? So this thing is something that Durkheim doesn't focus on, because he basically thinks that religion or anything in the society, functionalists basically think that anything in the society has a positive function, has a positive contribution to the society, but they ignore this disrupting factors, right? So that is the first. The second one is, again, whatever the thing is, that sometimes religion may promote immorality also, right? For example, the caste system is a offset of religion, and it promotes untouchability, against which many great men have fought. One of the very great men is B.R. Ambedkar, and he basically, B.R. Ambedkar has also written on the annihilation of caste, and wherein he basically, in this book, he basically says that caste can only be done away if the complete religion is done away. So you can see how Ambedkar basically said that, Hindu religion is immoral, right? So that is the second criticism. Thirdly, uh, many say that Durkheim has never conducted studies on his own. He relied on secondary anthropologists' work. Okay, anthropologists like Baldwin Spencer and Gillen. Okay, so these both are anthropologists on whose work. So they already formed many of their theories on the Arunta tribes. And from this, basically, Durkheim borrowed from this, and he made his theory of totemism. So Basically, people tell that he was an amateur sociologist, that he did not conduct any studies on his own, relied on the works of the anthropologists, and basically concluded, okay, second-handedly concluded things, and he never did anything on his own, especially in this religious sphere, right? That is what is the other criticism of Durkheim. The next criticism is that Evans Pritchard, okay, he says that dividing everything into sacred and profane is wrong because there are certain things which come in between also. For example, if we all can think of an example, the best example can be books, right? So, whenever a book falls on the ground and we by mistake step on it, we take it and we show a sort of respect towards the books, right? We take it and we take it, tell it in a way that sorry, yes, right? But in the same way, if a book is something that we are reading in the night, we also sleep with it beside us, and we also don't care that much whether we are lying on it or not lying on it, etc., etc. So that is what Evans Pritchard says, that everything in this world cannot be black and white. It cannot be sacred or profane. There are many things in between, and that is what Durkheim misses. And the next and the final thing is Durkheim's ill consideration of the fact of God. So Durkheim never goes into the debate whether God is present or not. He basically says that religion is nothing but man worshipping the society, right? So he doesn't bring in the dichotomy of whether God is present or not present, or he doesn't even take the God into consideration. And because of this, basically what happens is that uh, theory of the Durkheim doesn't apply to most of the religions that have God, right? Because he obviously doesn't consider God to be a part of religion, or he basically doesn't even bring that connotation out, right? So that is one thing, and hence it only applies on certain religions where there is no concept of God. Like Buddhism, there is no concept of God. However, even Buddhism now, if you see the neo Buddhism, a lot of concept of God and supernatural is still involved in Buddhism. So it is not applicable to all the religions in the world, right? So that is all about Durkheim's theory of religion, right? So if we have to revise it once, let us just in a brief revise it once. Yeah. From here, religion and society. So Durkheim basically talks about the elementary forms of religious life in his book, and he talks about the sacred and the profane. He gives out the characteristics of sacred and profane, and then he talks about the study called totemism, Arunta tribes of Australia, and he concludes that society is greater than man, or the individual basically worships the society in the form of religion. And then he gives out the functions of religion. He tells that there is shared morality, there is social control, society is greater than the individual, moral strength is given to the people, it provides a collective effervescence, a feeling of oneness. And even in today's world, this religion is still there in the form of secularism. And whenever this balance is upset, then there is a form called the anomy. Anomy is something, the intermediate stage between when one society passes from one stage to the other stage, right? So that is the anomy, right? So then we have seen the different stages in anomy, that is, there are no clear rules, regulations. We have seen certain examples, and then we have seen the criticisms of not Martin, Emile Durkheim's theory of religion, right? So he basically talks about how religion, there are like five different criticisms that are given, and that's it about Merton's, sorry, not Merton, Emile Durkheim's theory of religion, right? So next part, what we'll be doing is we will be doing the division of labor, right? So division of labor. This is another seminal and important work of Emile Durkheim, wherein he gives a very, very, very interesting theory. At least for me, it is really interesting. I'll explain in very simple language first, and then basically we'll go into what exactly is this theory, right? Because if I start with the jargon-laden terms right now itself, you might not be able to understand them so clearly. So, division of labor. So, what do you understand by this word first? Division of labor is nothing but if there is a certain work to be done, okay? If there's a certain work to be done. For example, let us take that a car manufacturing should be done. Okay, so that involves what? Glass parts, it involves steel, it involves, fusion, using fire and fusing everything together. It involves painting, right? And can a single person do all of this? No, a single person cannot do all of this, because if if at all he does all of it, he might be good at this, he might be good at this, he might not be good at this, and he might not be good at this, and the resulting product might not be that great. Okay, it might be 50-50. But if I bring in a professional glass maker, a professional steel maker, a professional fusionist, and a painter, and all of them provide their expertise, then the resultant product will be the best. It will be 100% best. So that is nothing but division of labor. Division of labor basically says that a task can be performed by many people who are specialists in their fields, right? So that is what division of labor is, right? So in this way, we get an output which is really good when compared to that which is done by a single person, and then it will also be effective and efficient, right? All of them getting employed, all of them getting their own share of things, right? So this is what is division of labor in layman terms. Like, this is not the proper definition, but for you to understand, that is what division of labor is. So when Durkheim was studying the society, right? So he had this doubt, okay, like many of us might have had or might be having when we study sociology. Like, the pre-modern society, then came the French Revolution and the Industrial Revolution, and then came the postmodern society. Pre-modern and postmodern. Okay. So he says that in the pre-modern society, people, there was division of labor. True, there was division of labor, but people were divided on the basis of caste, race, religion, etc., etc., right? So for example, in India you had this caste system wherein Brahmin, Kshatriyas, Vaishyas, Shudras, so these were there. And Brahmins used to be the temple people in the temple giving all those things. Kshatriyas used to be the rulers, Vaishyas used to be the traders or the farmers, and sorry, Shudras used to be the untouchables, or the one who were outside the, who were treated to be very very least, right? So this was how it was. They used to do all the manual scavenging work, etc., etc. So the caste that you're born in divided determined the division of labor, or the labor that you do. But in the post modern society, this division of labor is not done on the grounds of caste, religion, and race. It is done on the ground of merit, right? For example, the UPSC exam, you get the first 1 to 100 ranks, you become an IAS officer. If you become a little more, then you become an IPS officer, or your preferences, sometimes, IFS, etc., according to your preferences, right? And the only basis of it is merit. They're not going to see your caste, they're not going to see your race, religion, or which varna you belong to, nothing, right? Except for the reservation, that's a different debate. But here, the only thing that they're going to consider is your merit. That is what happens in the postmodern world. In the pre-modern world, that was not there. But Emile Durkheim observed that there was one thing that was common. What? That is that people were together. Here also people were together. Here also people were together. And he was not able to understand, like, he was able to understand for a matter of fact why these people were together. Why? Because, they were all same. They were very simple people. They were homogeneous. And they were all very living with each other, and they learned from each other, sat together, did many things together. But in this world, it's a very complex world. People are doing different things, no person does a single thing, right? In the pre-modern world, it was something like everyone used to do agriculture, right? Everyone used to be a farmer, everyone used to have machines, everyone used to do everything, right? But in the postmodern world, someone is an agriculturist, someone is an IAS officer, someone is a, banker, someone is even a politician. There are many things. And Durkheim was not able to understand, like, how all these people are able to adjust with each other. Why is that ego not coming in between and, tearing up the society? This was a question that Durkheim had. For that, his theory that he gave was very simple. He basically said that the reason for this togetherness is because of homogeneity. And this homogeneity resulted in a thing called mechanical solidarity, right? Here it is difference or interdependence that resulted in organic solidarity, right? So this is what basically Durkheim says, that the mechanical solidarity arising out of the sameness or the homogeneity in the pre-modern society is being replaced by the interdependence arising out of the organic solidarity in the postmodern society. So this is the basic theory of division of labor of Durkheim. So if you know or understood what is this, then you have understood the entire thing, right? So basically that is a basic thing. He says that whatever similarities was there, that helped people to be solidarity in a solidarity, but the same thing when it came to the postmodern world, the interdependence. For example, the agriculturist was producing food, the IAS officer was maintaining the bureaucracy, but the IAS officer still needs food to survive, right? So he had to depend on the farmer or the agriculturist. He had to depend on the banker for money, on the politician to maintain his status quo, etc., etc. Right? So these are the dependencies. Just becoming an IAS officer cannot give him everything. Here, if you are a farmer, you get everything in the pre-modern society. But in the post-modern society, that was never the case. Okay, so interdependence is what made the organic solidarity here, right? So in that way, we can basically say that the division of labor in the postmodern society gives rise to this interdependence and the differences between the people that further leads to organic solidarity, right? And for this, he basically also says that he gives this concept of dynamic density. Okay, and it has three parts. First one is volume, material density, and moral density. Okay, so from pre-modern to post-modern, the volume of the population increases, right? The population has increased. The material density, that means the material density means the population density, that is the people living on a particular field of land. That also sorry, here it is low and here it increases, here it is low. And the moral density, that is the interactions of the people, here it is low, here it is high, right? So as he says that with increase in volume, material density and moral density, society transfers from pre-modern society to post-modern society. And however, though there are many changes noticed, the solidarity still remains owing to the displacement of mechanical solidarity by the organic solidarity due to the interdependence and the division of labor in the postmodern society. This is simply a one line statement of what exactly is Durkheim's division of labor theory, right? So, that is all about the Durkheim's theory of division of labor. However, now let us look at the criticisms of this theory, right? So, for any theory, there will be criticisms, right? So, what is the criticism of theory? Is that yeah, Durkheim basically, whenever he says that um, the theory is basically a grand theory. Okay, it's like a single theory for everything, and many, especially modern and people, especially the people who do not believe in these grand theories, have basically done away with this theory of Durkheim, telling that there cannot be a single theory for every phenomenon in this world, right? So whatever the theory of division of labor is there, it might be one example or one explanation of whatever solidarity is present in the society, but it cannot be each and everything, right? So that is what is the criticism of this theory, right? Next, okay. And next, we will, sorry for that, but next we will now study about social facts. Okay. So when Emile Durkheim basically started talking about sociology and took interest in sociology, he wanted sociology to remain a science basically. And for that, he said that sociology is nothing but a science or a study of social facts, right? So, what exactly did he mean by social facts? So, social facts are nothing but those things which are externally imposed on an individual by the society, right? So, he very famously says that social facts are collective ways of acting, feeling, thinking that are external to an individual and endowed on him by power of coercion by which they control the individual or they control him, right? So the keywords here is that they're external to the individual by the power of coercion they control him. So individual has nothing to do with them. Okay, they are external to him. That means they are outside him. And for this he gives like there are four different contributors. First is externality. For example, you being a Brahmin or you being of any caste, etc., are not something that you decide on your own, right? So there's something that are external to you. You're born there and you have to take it up, right? You just it is sui generis. As soon as you're born, you're getting that. You cannot do anything out of it, right? Then you have independence. The social facts are independent. That is, you as an individual cannot do anything to change them, right? So you can change little of them, but you can't like completely overhaul the social facts, right? So that is independence. The second one is constraint. Sorry, the third one is constraint. That is a constrain the individual. For example, the different norms and values in the society that basically tell the individual to behave in a particular way and to not behave in a particular way, right? So that is how they constrain the individual, and they are general in nature. That is, they are present everywhere in the society, right? So these are the four different key factors of what exactly Durkheim means by social fact theory, right? Let us look at the criticisms of it again. The main criticism comes from Merton, who basically tells that such grand theories cannot be accepted. Grand theories cannot be accepted, and then you have Berger, whatever. He says that Durkheim basically did a lot of injustice to sociology by telling that a social fact cannot be controlled by an individual. He says that individual was forgotten by Durkheim. Okay, individual was completely forgotten by Durkheim, and that Durkheim has done a great injustice to sociology by completely forgetting the individual. Then obviously you have Weber, who comes up and tells that social facts are not only external but even the individual also interprets them. Individual also interprets the social facts. This we will do in his social action theory, wherein he brings in the individual also who guides the social actions, right? So these are some of the criticisms, and that concludes the social fact. Now, the next part or the last part of Durkheim's theories is very interesting again. It is nothing but suicide. Okay. So, for suicide, basically, Durkheim says that there are two main reasons for suicide in the society. So usually whenever we study suicide today, if for example Alex is there and he commits suicide, okay, what do we say? We say that maybe Alex was having some personal trouble in his life, or he was undergoing certain emotional turbulences or some health problems, etc. And all of them might be right, but for Durkheim, the main reasons is the society again. Because for functionalists, the society is the important part. It is not the individual who is important, but the society that is important. So he basically says that the level of social integration and moral regulation, these both, in any society where the social integration and the moral integration are balanced, the suicides are less. And when there is an imbalance, there happens suicide. So for that, he gives like four different types of suicides, which you can understand by a very simple diagram, right? So this diagram is something that you can draw, right? So the first type of suicide is altruistic suicide. I'll explain what that is. Then you have fatalistic. Then you have egoistic. Then you have anomic. So all these are the different types of suicides, and on this scale comes the regulation, and on this scale comes the integration, right? So this is the regulation scale, which is positive here. Too much of regulation, this is too less of regulation, this is too much of integration, and this is too less of integration, right? And there is this imaginary line that he draws in between, wherein he says that these happen in the traditional societies or the pre-modern societies, and these happen in the modern societies, right? So let us understand what this diagram basically here tells about, right? So the first one is so the first one, let us take egoistic suicide, right? So whenever the level of, so this is a social integration, right? So whenever the level of social integration is very less, okay, whenever the level is very less, people undergo egoistic suicides, okay? So for example, single people, people who are not married, the rate of suicide is higher, and the people with no children, the rate of suicide is higher, because these people are so alone in life, they're so lonely that they do not have anyone to talk to, etc., etc., and that leads to egoistic suicide, right? So that happens in the modern societies, because in the modern societies we are all so much lonely in our lives, right? Because of the technology, because of our own world that we live in, etc., we are all so much egoistic that we rarely talk with people, rarely express our views to the people, and that leads to increase in loneliness and increase in the egoistic suicides in the modern society, right? In the modern society, the another thing that happens is the anomic suicide. So anomic suicide are nothing but when you feel, or when you feel that the moral reg- the moral regulation is very very less, right? So whenever we feel, we have studied anomy, right? So it is a state of statelessness or normlessness, right? It's a normless state where you don't have any integration in the society, where you don't have any regulation that is happening in the society, and that is where this anomy comes in, right? And people are in a state of this thing that, what is happening to my life, what am I doing in life? I mean, you're confused in your life. That is a state of anomy, and that usually happens in the modern life. Example is that of 27 club. So there is this 27 club, wherein most of the famous actors, actresses, etc., who have earned a lot of fame in their life, take away their lives at the age of 27, even after becoming a lot of successful, even after getting a lot of things, because of the personal problems that they have in the modern world, right? So anomic and the egoistic, where the integration is very low and where the regulation is very low, they happen in the modern societies. Whereas on the traditional societies, what happens is altruistic suicide and fatalistic suicide. Altruistic suicide means whenever the integration is very, very high. For example, the practice of sati. In traditional society, sati was there, right? When husband dies, the woman also dies, right? So that is how sati also is a form of altruistic suicide. Soldiers giving away their lives for the sake of the nation, that even happens today. But it was more in the traditional society because the river of integration in the society was very, 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 very high. That sati is a form where women did not willingly do it. It was a societal pressure because the society controlled the women. The integration of the society was very high, right? Then you have fatalistic suicide, where the regulation is very, very high. So, for example, you have slavery, you have married women, where patriarchy comes in. Married women are not allowed to go out of the house, they're not allowed to talk with males, etc. All this basically make them feel very, very small. They make them feel very regulated, very constrained, very restricted, and they end up committing suicide. So these are the four different types of suicides that Durkheim basically tells about: altruistic and fatalistic in the traditional societies where the regulation and the integration are the highest, whereas anomic and egoistic in the modern societies where the regulation and the integration are very, very low. Right? So this diagram you draw and you're going to get good marks. And what are the criticisms of this theory? The first criticism obviously is that he has ignored the individual. So this criticism you can you can play with them, right? So you can write one criticism, the criticism of individualism. You can use it in suicide, you can use it in religion, you can use it in division of labor, all of this, right? So one criticism you can use many ways. That is how we prepare. And there is a a very great, a very famous phenomenologist called Atkinson. He says that Durkheim has basically ignored the individual factors, and because of that he has criticized his theory. Okay, he's a phenomenologist, I guess. He also writes on suicide, and he tells that Durkheim's theory basically only focuses on the societal reasons, but it doesn't dwell deep into what the individual felt or why he did what he did, right? So he basically this is theory of suicide. And Durkheim's theory of suicide became very popular because that was the first time like someone has taken a step to write about suicide, and that was the first time where sociological theory and empirical theory were brought in together to give this beautiful theory of suicide. And obviously, it has its own criticisms, but the first step taken up is itself a great step, right? So this you can also connect to today's view in today's suicides that happen in today's society, etc., and mention the other reports, etc., the empirical studies, etc. And and that is how we end the chapter. We have done all the things that we have started to do in the starting. Let me just go and check once. Yeah, I think here, right. So we have talked about functionalism, we have talked about religion and society, we talked division of labor, we've talked about social facts and suicide. So that ends up this chapter, and I hope you understood Emile Durkheim, and that's all. If you have liked the video, please like and subscribe and share, and stay tuned for the next video. It will be on the next video will be on Merton, I guess. No, it will be on Talcott Parsons. And yeah, that's it. Bye, take care.